So, Thomas, we're talking about capital in an unstable world. And just before we get on to your announcement, I'd like to understand a bit more about DTCP. And could you tell us about what you've done over the past 10 years? And don't you like instability? Doesn't instability in the investment world create opportunity?
I would not say I like instability. What I like is change. I like innovations and progress. And this is what we, particularly as a private equity venture capital firm, are very good at. We are good at putting money to work to help founders build products, build small companies, and then scale those companies very fast to reach enterprise readiness, because a startup needs to sell their technologies to markets, to big corporations, to customers. And it's a long way from a startup to be an enterprise-grade product. And this is what I love. This is what we do. DTCP is a 10-year-old investment platform out of Europe with activities in the US and in Israel. We are one of Europe's largest investors in cyber defense ever since. We're a very strong expert on AI and enterprise software and cloud computing. And we have also an infrastructure fund for data centers. So everything what we do ever since is about a digital transformation infrastructure for the enterprise world, backed on the developments in cloud computing, the last 10 years. Everyone knows this now as digital transformation, and this needs to happen now in defense. We have to digitally transform the defense ecosystem.
And you had already invested in your previous funds in Quantum Systems, a defense tech company. What brought about that investment?
So back then, Quantum Systems was a drone manufacturer driven with a very passionate and strong founder team. And we got to know them, have been very impressed from their mission, the responsibility that they take with all their investment and engagement in Ukraine. And we thought, like, with our expertise in AI and software, we can help this company to become also a software play, an AI play, in order with their leading hardware to become a software-enabled hardware play. So we invested, and all of a sudden then we have been part of the whole discussion within the German forces, the NATO, and the European defense ecosystem. And what we understood is that what we all know about digital transformation needs to happen. And it took 10 years in the private enterprise space to get there where we are, I mean, like 85% completion or something like that. And in defense, it needs to happen exactly the same thing, but we don't have 10 years of time. We may have 3 to 5 years of time to do exactly the same thing which happened in a very fast pace in the private enterprise space. And this was then the point where we as DTCP decided that we will devote our time and our expertise and our capital to defense, to start a dedicated defense fund to do this.
Historically, most European VCs have steered away from defense tech because often their LPs are not uncomfortable with them investing in that for ESG reasons. How did you raise the money for this fund? Were your existing LPs willing to put money in, or did you have to find a new universe of investors?
Yeah, so first of all, we started 18 months ago to try to build this fund. And we thought we have a lot of tailwind. It's a very topical theme where everyone is talking about, everybody knows that it's right to do that. But the framework with regards to ESG and institutional capital was not there and was not ready for doing it. So it was extremely complicated to find, even though everybody agrees that this is important and we have to do it, but to find capital and to find partners who really want to invest in or can invest in this kind of product. And so we have been working very, very intensely the last 18 months, and now we have done our anchor closing with our anchor investors for this 500 million fund, which are mainly existing ones from the traditional industry. So we do have a lot of interested parties from institutional capital now, because ESG law was changed 2 weeks ago. So from nowadays, dual use and military goods, weapon systems are being considered as being sustainability under the rules of the modern ESG regulation. So institutional capital now can invest, and this is what we see also. There's a high interest in that.
And there's an attempt to kind of rebrand ESG anyway, isn't there? The S stands for security, or G stands for governance and defending democracy. Do you think investors are buying into that, or
Absolutely.
still a hard sell?
Times have changed. Times have changed, and this is not only for institutions and governments, but also enterprises, corporations do understand that. We also see like family offices and typical Mittelstand companies feel a strong responsibility to add to this exercise of change, of getting our act together, developing a new self-confidence in Europe backed by new technologies in order to earn back the right to sit on the table of geopolitical decisions these days, which at the moment for Europe, we're in a very tough situation. We lost that, and now we need to work all together very hard to develop our own European capabilities, our new technologies to earn back that right to be part of geopolitical discussions.
As we were hearing on the earlier very powerful discussion about the state of the war in Ukraine, there's a very strong moral imperative for all democracies, I think, in Europe to support Ukraine and make sure the war is won. To what extent are you driven by that mission, and to what extent are you driven by the need to generate a financial return for your investors?
So we are a financial investor for sure. We found out that a defense and resilience strategy that we just launched, the name of that is Project Liberty, is a perfect continuation of what we have done the last 10 years. We are investing in digital transformation technologies on the infrastructure side, on the software side. And this is not just a phenomenon, this is not just now. So this is the beginning of a very long cycle of intense technology investment in defense, in infrastructure. And we are convinced that this will be a very strong financial investment strategy with very strong return potential, as this is the foundation of technology for Europe. So in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, these investments that we do today in Europe will have an ROI, will pay back in a new technology landscape in 15 to 20 years compared to Silicon Valley in the US, which is also a result of the DARPA initiatives back then. So we will see that these investments in defense is not just because of a current threat or a current situation. It is something that we neglected over the last 30 years, and we will use this capital which is available now in order to build these technologies and capabilities in Europe.
Can you say a bit more about the investment thesis for your defense tech fund? What kind of particular sectors are you going to invest in within defense tech?
Yeah, so this is a venture/early growth strategy. That means we're investing in companies in the A and B and C round, meaning that companies do have a product, have a first customer, a first proof of concept for that product, and then we are the right investor to give them growth capital in order to build a global business out of it. We are investing alongside the infrastructure of defense. That means from data center, energy, medical, towards supply chain, logistics, manufacturing, materials, AI, space, satellites is a very, very big topic for us. Then also very much into AI, connectivity, software, and for sure unmanned systems and new capabilities of modern warfare.
And geographically, where are you likely to make most of your investments?
So our mandate is we can invest in all of our NATO member countries and plus NATO partners. But the clear focus of this fund is to strengthen in the European defense supply chain. So we will do everything to bring IP to Europe to develop these technologies in Europe.
And will you be investing directly in Ukraine?
We can. We have already done. One of our companies is Quantum Systems. They have invested a lot in Ukraine on the ground there. We see that these people there are extremely committed and are very innovative. And this is something that we all as Europe can learn a lot from. So in general, we are very open to invest in the Ukraine. As said, we will do everything what helps us in Europe to build this new technology stack, this new IP that we need to have.
Mm-hmm. I was in Kiev last year and interviewed quite a lot of the kind of drone companies that were developing. And as we were hearing from the earlier panel, the rate of innovation and the feedback is extraordinary. And a lot of people who are operating there say it's only when you're operating on the front line and you're getting that instantaneous feedback that you can actually understand where the technology is going. And they were quite skeptical of a lot of kind of Western defense companies that were promising to deliver kind of state-of-the-art tech because they were not on the front line. So how are you going to invest in companies that really do understand how the battlefield is evolving?
So yeah, so one is you need to understand the technology stack very well. You need to understand capability planning of the armed forces, and then you need to see what is the technology gap to bridge that. And between right now what we see in Ukraine is it is a cat and mouse game between the Russian forces and the Ukraine forces, that someone comes with an innovation, the other party reacts on it and comes up with a counter innovation towards that. So this is at a very high pace. So, and there are certain technologies which then have to be developed very quickly and have then this advantage. And this is a huge advantage for the Ukrainians now, that they do have the battlefield experience in that. And this is for Europe of high value, because having battlefield tested capabilities and planning, and also the planning for that for the next iteration of a technology generation is very valuable to then do product development on base of that experiences.
Mm-hmm. A number of VCs I talk to, they understand the kind of moral imperative of investing in this area, but they shy away from it because of the practicalities, that they do not think that you will necessarily get any higher return in defense tech, but the amount of hassle involved and the complexities and the uncertainty is so much higher than any other sector. Do you think you're going to have to work a lot harder to get a return on your investment in this area?
The answer is yes. For sure, we have to work very hard to not only make money, but also develop the right technologies that have impact on European sovereignty and our will to fight for our democracy, to deter potential threats in the future. So it is always a function of work very hard. So defense has one specific difference to traditional software investing. In software, you are here to disrupt incumbents. They want to disrupt an existing ecosystem of players. In defense, this is in most of the cases not possible, because there is a prime ecosystem, a national defense ecosystem, which has been there for ages, and which is true because the core business of these players are very important. So you cannot disrupt a prime as a startup. So you have to follow a partner-first approach. You have to develop technologies and capabilities for that partner to then joint offer these new capabilities enhanced by that. So this is very important, and you have to put a lot of work behind this. And this is the reason why we, in our fund, as I said, our investors are not only institutional investors, it's also defense corporations and traditional corporations from the industry, because we need their help as an and to build an extended workbench between the startup ecosystem, the traditional industry, and the defense industry of today to build the new capabilities of tomorrow. So it has to go hand in hand. We have to bridge also European gaps. National security interests are real, even though across Europe. So we have to bridge that in order to reach interoperability of systems. And this only can come through new technologies if we do it hand in hand.
Right. A lot of people in the investment world are also talking astonishingly, compared to a few years ago, about the need to de-risk from the US. Is that something that you think about?
For me, it is, as I said, it's not about doing anything against our NATO partners. The US is a very strong partner and will always be. It is more that we, through our technology, earn back the right to be a good partner and to sit on the table of geopolitical decisions these days, which to some extent we lost a bit the ability to do so. So we need to develop our own capabilities in order to be a strong partner for our NATO allies, and then to have more self-confidence to play a part in current geopolitical discussion. This is what it's all about. It's not against someone specific. Right now we're more and more transitioning towards a fight of superpowers again, and Europe has to catch up, has to maintain the right into this geopolitical questions. And this is only possible if we strengthen our technology capability and then to earn that right back.
Is it possible? I've heard a lot of skepticism at DLD this year about the ability of Europe to act with sufficient speed and will.
Absolutely. I'm 100% convinced that Europe has the IP, the expertise and the talent to do that. We have the capital to do that, and the will is also there. We tend to be a little slow with such things typically, but that is exactly the reason why we as private equity industry want to help, because we live in a very short, agile technology environment that innovations come very fast, and we are used to do that. So that's why we want to help and offer private capital into this whole system of change, of renewing it. And I'm deeply convinced that Europe has everything what it needs to get back to this, and also to be able to develop an own agenda, how they want to position themselves, how we want to interact with our partners in the future, and then to maintain our values in democracy.
Okay, final question, and appropriately enough, it's about the exit. The minute you invest as a kind of venture capitalist, you've got to be thinking about how you're going to get a return at the exit. How does it work in defense tech world? A lot of VCs, again, talk about the unlikelihood that some of the primes are ever going to pay the kind of multiples that they would expect to exit from a VC type of investment. Does that imply that you're going to list some of these companies? Is IPO the main exit, or how do you think you'll get your money back?
So first of all, we believe that this will be a very strong investment strategy with very strong return profile to our investors. We believe that there is outsized returns definitely possible, because the amount of scale, once technology gets through procurement to an end customer, then the scale is completely different than in a private software world. So when it comes to exits, it's also different than in the usual software world, because you have the very big buckets. So we differ between 3 different buckets of exits of buyers. One is strategic M&A of primes, or industry players or conglomerates, where they say we need to own this technology and integrate it into our existing solutions. This is something where small companies, the majority of the exits in that will be small companies in an enterprise value between, let's say, 200 million to 1 billion. This is a very big part of the ecosystem then. The second one is private equity buyers itself, because defense companies done right and with a strong product used to have very healthy margins and cash flow profiles. So here we see that the interest of other private equity funds will be much higher, even though than in typical European software companies. And the last bucket that we see is for sure IPO. We expect that Europe will see a couple of new so-called neo-primes out of there, which itself become platforms and itself will consolidate the market and become a big vendor in the industry. So these are the 3 channels where we think how exits will happen, and will make this not only a very important initiative, but also a very successful one from a capital perspective.
Right. Well, it is now time for us to exit. So thank you very much, Thomas, for a great discussion.
Thank you so much.